decree and monitored by a federal court.
NPR News, Michigan Public, 91.7 FM. Citation.
Hell will be a guest on Michigan Public's Stateside later today. Governor Gretchen Whitmer has signed into law a bill that strikes down homeowner association bans on solar panels. For one Portage resident, it's a turning point in a nearly 4-year-long quest. Michael Simons has more.
Rick Fryman of Portage planned to install solar panels on his roof in 2020. His homeowners association stopped him. It said the panels would not fit the neighborhood's aesthetics. But a new law will stop HOAs from banning solar panels, though it allows some restrictions on their appearance and placement. Fryman says he reached out to state House and Senate members after his HOA denied his application.
To think that you can actually talk to your representatives and possibly get a law passed is amazing.
Fryman's HOA did not respond to a request for comment. I'm Michael Simons.
2 Michigan public bus systems are getting a green boost. Ann Arbor's transit system is getting $25 million. Detroit's bus system is getting more than $30 million from the Federal Transit Administration. The money will be used to purchase hydrogen-powered and diesel-electric hybrid buses. In the Michigan Public weather forecast today, we'll see a lot of rain, some thunderstorms possible at times. The rain could be heavy at times. It'll be breezy, and highs will be between about 65 and 70 degrees. As the remnants of Hurricane Beryl cross the region, we remain under a flood watch in most of our listening area until 8 o'clock tonight. You're listening to Michigan Public News. Find more at michiganpublic.org.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Yarl and Pamela Lamone, focusing on civil liberties, foster youth, public radio, and the arts. From the Wallace Foundation, working to develop and share practices that can improve learning and enrichment for young people and the vitality of the arts for everyone. Ideas and information at wallacefoundation.org. And from the William T. Grant Foundation, supporting research to improve the lives of young people at wtgrantfdn.org.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Steve Inskeep.
And I'm Sasha Pfeiffer. The Pentagon says the U.S.-built temporary pier on the Gaza coast meant to deliver humanitarian aid will be reinstalled in the next few days. It was removed about a week ago because of bad weather. Even before that, it had not lived up to the Biden administration's hopes. And once it's reinstalled, it might not stay up for long. NPR's Hadil Al-Shalshi joins us now from Tel Aviv. And Hadil, I understand your line may be shaky, so I hope we won't lose you.
I'm going to try my best here.
What is the current status of this pier?
So the pier has had some very bad luck since the beginning of its operations in May. Bad weather and security concerns have hampered the delivery of aid from the pier, so much so that even though it will be reinstalled, the Associated Press is reporting that the plan is actually to dismantle the pier completely, and then the U.S. military will leave the area. This is supposed to happen after the aid piling up in Cyprus, and that's already on the pier is moved on land. So aid has already been very hard to get into Gaza because of regular border closures by the Israeli military in Egypt. And then the aid, once it gets into Gaza, has been difficult because of the ongoing fighting. Also looting by armed gangs, which Israel says includes Hamas, and by desperate, starving Palestinians has made delivery a challenge also. President Biden, as a reminder, announced in March during his State of the Union speech that the U.S. military would build this pier and seemed confident it would be a way to relieve some of the humanitarian suffering inside Gaza. But so far, between the bad weather and security concerns, it's been largely a failure.
Ideal, is any aid getting through the pier now? And if it is getting through, is it getting to Palestinians?
That's a very good question. Aid from the pier has recently been piling up on the Gaza beach, and it's been a great challenge to deliver. It was just sitting there because the United Nations stopped its deliveries from the pier in early June after the Israeli military used the area during a rescue operation which freed 4 hostages. About 270 Palestinians were killed in that operation, according to health officials there, and the UN says it's now investigating if the pier itself was used in that operation. So last week, the UN's World Food Program, which is in charge of distributing the aid from the pier, arranged for all of it to be moved into a warehouse to prevent it from spoiling. And the thing is, to keep in mind also that the aid delivered through the pier is just a fraction of what's needed. Aid agencies say that Gaza needs at least 500 trucks of aid a day to relieve the suffering, and Israel says only about 200 going in. But a new report by the UN agency which investigates famine says that because of food shortages and hunger, 500,000 Palestinians in Gaza are now facing starvation.
And the larger context here is that as the fighting between Israel and Hamas in Gaza keeps going on, it keeps worsening the humanitarian situation.
Exactly. And according to the UN, 4 schools turned shelters have been hit by Israeli airstrikes in the past 4 days. Just yesterday, at least 25 Palestinians sheltering in a school in North Gaza were killed in an Israeli airstrike, according to health officials. Fuel is running out in hospitals. Many health facilities have been forced to close. And while Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said last month that the Israeli military was winding down its offensive in Gaza, there's renewed fighting on the ground in the north and the south. There's a new ground offensive in Gaza City after the military pulled out months ago. At that time, they said Hamas was defeated. So just a few days ago, the Israeli military ordered another evacuation for thousands of Palestinians in the north.
That is NPR's Hadil Al-Shalchi in Tel Aviv. Hadil, thank you.
Thank you.
Some other news now. Medicines like Ozempic and Wegovy are now so popular for weight loss that they become hard to get, which is a problem for patients who take
careful, people.
type 2 diabetes.
Be careful.
Pharmaceuticals
It's counterfeit drugs of these as well out there.
Heard about people with diabetes who were unable to get their Ozempic because the drug was being used off-label for weight loss. He just didn't think it would affect him. Cox, who has type 2 diabetes, had been taking a drug called Trulicity. That's a GLP-1 drug and in the same class as Ozempic.
And then I went up to my local pharmacy to get my Trulicity, and they said, sorry, we're out. I couldn't renew my prescription.
He's not alone. Trulicity and similar drugs like Ozempic and Mounjaro have all been in short supply over the last 18 months. Ro.co, a telehealth company, built a free online tool to help patients report shortages of these drugs. That company's CEO, Zach Bertano, said they received 35,000 reports of GLP-1 shortages within 2
A natural way of regulating diabetes is bitter melon.
These medications have been so wildly successful.
Go to the nearest Asian market near you, and you can find bitter melon there.
They should have been prepared.
Google it.
Demand has shifted due to their very aggressive advertising campaigns.
It's been hard to miss when you turn on the TV.
Adults lost up to 14 pounds.
It could help you lose up to 10 pounds.
Plus, people taking Mounjaro lost up to 25 pounds.
To be clear, all those ads touting the number of pounds patients lost were for drugs approved for diabetes. But that hasn't stopped people from using these drugs for weight loss anyway. For Cox, the diabetes patient who couldn't fill his prescription, this kind of advertising by drug makers makes him angry.
They just went overboard.
How do you even get a prescription drug without a prescription? And why would doctors be prescribing a drug that diabetics need for people to lose weight?
GLP-1 drugs for
what in the world is going on in this country?
Says it's direct-to-consumer advertising is
this is the type of stuff I'm talking about.
Off-label use. Still, it turns out that conserving these medications for the people they were approved to treat is challenging. CVS Caremark's solution involves looking at a patient's history to see whether there's any prior evidence of them having diabetes. If not, which happens about a third of the time, CVS Caremark will require a prior authorization, meaning the doctor will have to explain the prescription before it's covered. Here's Dr. Daniel Necht, Chief Innovation Officer at CVS.
You see how much of a game this is? It's the drug game.
We're rejecting about 84%.
The legal drug game.
Most of those patients are not actually diabetic, and there's off-label use.
Some doctors say that CVS Caremark's approach might cause more problems, however. Dr. Scott Isaacs is the president-elect of the American Association of Clinical Endocrinology. He says he might prescribe a diabetes drug to a weight loss patient and vice versa. The reason is he's trying to prescribe whichever drug is available and covered by the patient's insurance. And he's upset about a troubling trend at the pharmacy counter.
I feel like it's obesity discrimination. They would tell patients things like, you don't deserve to be on this, or, this is for patients with diabetes, you're abusing this drug, even if the doctor is prescribing it.
He says both groups of patients do really need their medicines. It's unclear how...
Lies! Obesity is through you. If you stop being a pig, well, let me calm that down, because some people get it through medication, steroidal medication. Once again, This medication stuff destroying our lives. When are you going to see the truth, people? New Tesla truck, I just passed it. When are you going to see the truth, people? Huh? They're turning us into a country full of addicts. And why? For them to get rich? Wake up, 99%.
TVs says its 3-day strike is now an indefinite strike. You can hear more on that story and other business news from around the world on the Marketplace Morning Report. That's ahead in 9 minutes. Support for Michigan Public comes from Michigan Saves, offering a loan program that helps offset unexpected costs for homeowners with failing or near-failing septic systems in partnership with the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. More at michigansaves.org/septic. In the Michigan Public weather forecast, more rain expected today. Many areas could see a few more inches of rain. Thunderstorms possible as well. Highs between 65 and 70.
Good morning, I'm Nisha Patel at the BBC. Ceasefire talks aiming to pause hostilities in the war in Gaza are resuming in Qatar today. American and Israeli intelligence chiefs will meet senior Qatari and Egyptian officials. From Jerusalem, here's the BBC's Nick Beak.
The ceasefire plan under discussion would see a 6-week truce in Gaza, but Hamas claims ongoing Israeli military operations are undermining any deal. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu insists the war won't end until Hamas has been destroyed.
In Australia, members of a religious group are on trial accused of denying medication to an 8-year-old girl who then died. Her parents are among the 14 defendants who are representing themselves at Queensland's Supreme Court. Simon Atkinson reports from Brisbane.
Elizabeth Strews died after members of a sect known as the Saints allegedly prayed to God to cure her type 1 diabetes rather than giving her insulin. Her father and the religious group's leader were charged with murder. The girl's mother, brother and 10 others are accused of manslaughter.
The trial is expected to last around 3 months. And a strike at the Korean chipmaker Samsung Electronics has been extended indefinitely. The workers' union said management had shown no sign of wanting to discuss better pay and benefits. Managers insist there will be no impact on production at the world's largest memory chip maker. I'm Nisha Patel at the BBC in London.
And this is Michigan Public. It's 5:45.
That's what I'm talking about, people. Wake up, America. You see all around the world, everybody else is waking up, standing up for their rights, not taking it anymore. No more in 24. No more in 24. No more in 24. Tired of being taken advantage of. Tired of it. We ought to have a national stand down day. A national stand down week where we stand together in solidarity as Americans and say no more. We are not going back to work until you double our rates. If you're making millions, billions of dollars in profit a year, you can afford it. Huh? Why are we struggling, scrambling